Hi, and welcome to a tutorial on how to create some music using granular synthesis. For this tutorial, I'm going to use Pet Shop as my main instrument. This is the same synthesizer that we learned how to program in the book in chapter 9. I have created this patch, which is the same one that we created in the book, which I called Great Mick. That sounds like this. Now, as I said in the book, granular synthesis is great for creating ever-evolving pads and some really interesting synthesized sounds that go beyond the regular pad type of sound. So I usually use granular synthesis for things like cinematic cues or something that needs some really exciting sounds. So let's just review how we got to create this type of sounds. This is a layer of two different waveforms, as we can see here. I have a layer A and layer B, and the original source of this were these two sounds right here. There is a guitar rhythmic sound, as you can see. It has some sustain, but it has also some very rhythmic and punchy transients, and also a sustain sound. This is a bass, arco bass sound. Usually when I create a granular patch, I like to combine two different and complementary type of waveforms. So if I go to layer A down here, I'm going to mute layer B. This is how the guitar sound was processed in Pet Shop. As you can see, Pet Shop, it's really recombining the transients and the small sustained part of the original recording into something more interesting. I kept the rhythmic aspect, but now I'm working with something more interesting. In the same way, when I go to layer B, this is my sustained arco bass sound. And this provides a more sustain, of course, but also a more fatter and a deeper type of component. So the good thing about Pet Shop is that I can mix between these two layers if they are both active. I assign this parameter to a MIDI control change so that I can control it from an external controller. In this case, I assigned it to CC number 21, which is one of the open controllers. To assign it is very simple. You just right click and click Learn CC. As you can see, in this case, I have it assigned to controller 21. So that allows me to change even further the patch, right? So if I play a note, I can at any given time morph between the two waveforms, which is really interesting. Also, as you will notice, I assigned an LFO1 to control the grain duration, and then I have a step modulator that controls the pitch. This is for layer B. Modulation wheel, the step modulation frequency, and the key following controlling the grain length, and the filter envelope controlling the grain speed. So that gives me a lot of variation in the patch. And for the layer A, I did similar programming. So for example, when I move my modulation wheel, the rhythmic activity and the energy level of the patch increases. So let's put down some tracks and let's learn how to use it in a musical way. I have prepared here a track with my original patch that I described before. And the first layer is going to be the more rhythmic and the one that has a sort of bass tone, a drone tone that will go through this short cue. So let's go. As you can see, I kept it simple, but this will constitute the drone that will go on in our little cube. For the second layer, I used a similar patch, but this time I'm using only the second layer. I reduced the reverb to have a more direct impact, and also I lowered the resonance and added a longer attack. I'm going to use this patch to kind of fill in the higher top end of my instrumentation. So I would like to have a part that kind of just sprinkles a little bit and gives me a little bit of ear candies every so often. So let's record it. As you can see, now this part is going to be just sprinkling here and there the higher end of the spectrum. So let's hear it. To make the part more interesting, let's add some effects. Specifically, I like to add a delay. I'm going to use the Great Delay Designer. And I'm going to pick something that is a little bit creative. You can use this preset if you want to have something more traditional that has a long tail, or I can go crazier. Something like this adds almost like a synthesized effect of its own. Let's listen to the effect with both parts together. If I want to give more of a melodic sense, I can actually change the notes here and alternate them, and keeping sort of like a minor type of color, and I'm gonna just alternate, in this case C and B flat. Listen to the effect. you can see now, we added a third dimension to the piece. We have a little bit of motion here between the C and the B flat, implying a little bit of a minor key. Now let's add something more rhythmic. For this example, I'm gonna pick something from the Evolve, is from the Mutation series, and that gives me a lot of control and a lot of flexibility in terms of what I want to add. What I'm looking for is something that complements rhythmically what we created in Pet Shop, and so I'm gonna use some pretty heavy and distorted percussions. Let's hear it. And here's my percussive part, which I'm gonna change color so I can recognize it. I'm gonna quantize it. And let's hear it without a click. Now I also want to add something complementary to the percussion part. So I'm going to create a similar instrument. And this time I'm going to just add something that create more of a counterpoint with the previous rhythmic part. This element I just added allows me to just keep the motion and the percussive motion going a little bit more. So this is a very nice complement to whatever we had before. Let's hear it. As a final touch, let's add a melodic element. Since I want something smooth but still interesting, I'm gonna use Pet Shop again, and I picked this preset. Is called Ambient Awakening. This is the sound. What I like about this sound is that it has a melodic component, but also a subtle rhythmic element that makes it more interesting. So let's add it to our current track. The part is simple, but it definitely shifts the piece towards a minor key, and let's just hear it by itself. As you can see, the first part is a single line, and then I double the octave lower in order to make it more substantial and also to give a sense of growth of higher energy in the second part of the cue. Let's hear it with everything. And here we go. That's how you can use granular synthesis to effectively create cues that are interesting, ever evolving, ever changing, and never boring.